I'm Monique Sharp, and this is Get Sharp, where I'm lucky enough to chat with people just like you on turning fear into focus and leveling up their lives. In today's episode, Sinclair Fischer-Gray joins me to talk about the intersection of physical pain and emotional growth. In his early 20s, an injury cost Sinclair his professional rugby career. He bounced back as a celebrity trainer in LA, but he never imagined he was going to hit rock bottom only a few years after, weighing just 59 kilos at a height of 6'3" during his obsession with healing through water fasting. Listen in as Sinclair shares his journey and how he trained his mind to, in his words, take his power back. Take us back to when you first had a bit of a light bulb moment that you want to do something a bit different. What was happening for you before you hit that point?
The first true light bulb moment was when I was 20 and I was playing rugby at the time. I was a typical kind of rugby bloke, like it was all about, beer and drinking and partying and chicks and footy and occasionally a bit of uni and study and whatever. But it was mainly just, life was like pretty simple. And then all of a sudden I got an injury and I had to put everything on hold and figure out how to fix the injury and get back on the footy field. And I thought it was going to be a really simple process, actually. I was told I had a bulging disc, L5S1, really common. And I was just doing weights in the off season. And I was getting ready to play like professionally the next year. So it was I was at like a pretty big fork in the road and things were looking optimistic. And anyway, so I had this injury. And back then I still went to the doctor. So I went to the doctor about my bulging disc and he was like, just go on the leg extension machine and do some leg extension holds, static holds, everything will just correct itself. I was like, oh, great. How easy is that? I literally thought it was going to be that easy. And then I saw, physios and chiros. I did so many different things and it just never got better.
How are you feeling at that point? Like, what was going through your mind at the same time? Like, you had this physical pain and you were trying to process that by taking steps with a physio and chiro and GP, but what was going through your mind?
The whole time I was very confident I would fix it and get back on the field. But the longer time went along, the more I started to doubt things and I started to question everything. And so like keeping a confident, sane mind was difficult, and it got more and more difficult because that lasted for years. And I reckon by maybe like 23, 24, I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to play again.
A bit of a personal question, feel free to say that you're not comfortable, but what else was happening in your personal life? You've got this career that you're trying to achieve in rugby and you're obviously like really physically fit. You've got some great friends around you. You mentioned that you were studying at uni. What was happening with your other connections? And what environment were you living in? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I lived with my dad. My parents split when I was 10, but I lived with my dad. I was around my siblings. I had great relationships with my friends. Like we partied, we had fun. I just treated my body like it was kind of invincible. But life was good. Like looking back now, all my issues actually started right after I had my first breakup when I was 16. So my first heartbreak. And, that was like the first big relationship, the first sort of high school sweetheart, whatever. And then like, I reckon probably 6 to 12 months after that, I started getting like outbreaks and developing skin problems. And if I look back and I'm really honest as well, like that definitely was the beginning of like a shift in my personality.
Right.
Because I started to like shut my heart off a little bit. I realize now how significant that was in the development of my injuries and also like who I became as a person. It's all wrapped up together, isn't it? It's like your physical body is a reflection of who you are and the way you think and feel and the things you put inside of it. And that was the first thing. That was like the catalyst that kind of set me off on my path.
How you perceived that event in your life and how you moved forward from it is really,
you
can never blame anybody for the way you react or the way that you think. It's just how you cope with that, right?
Totally. And I didn't have the tools at the time to really understand how to process that. So like being a typical guy, I think I just kind of buried it and got on with things and didn't, I lived with my dad at the time, and my dad wasn't the kind of guy who you would talk to about that. My siblings were all young. My mates were just like, yeah, she'll be right, mate. It was like that kind of one. And I was just like, all right, like I'll just get on with things and this will resolve itself. And, you know, and like, it wasn't tragic or anything. I got on with my life, but it definitely, those things definitely have an impact.
With you here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So then you have this injury, it's not getting better. Your environment at the time is actually quite good. You have good connections. Were you feeling a lot of pressure at the time from yourself or from anybody else with what you achieve?
I was actually. It's funny you say that. Like I was feeling pressure, like from maybe like my dad a little bit. To be honest, my dad was like my biggest fan, and I think he really wanted to live vicariously through me and see me do well and everything. And yeah, I think there was just pressure of like, when are you going to get back on the field and everything, or what else are you going to do if you're not doing that? So definitely felt pressure because it changed the course of my life. I think that's the biggest one. It was like I went from being certain of I'm going to become this like professional rugby player and that's going to be my life and I'm going to earn good money. And, I was at that point where like, that's a strong possibility. And then it was like, all right, now I can't do that. Now I've got to do something else. It was like, I didn't know what the hell to do. Like I'd never thought about any other option. So I just became obsessed with my healing. That's when it just started. I just was like, all right, now it's not even about rugby anymore. It got to the point where it was like, now I'm just hyper focused on healing. 28 is where I had the big second light bulb moment. Up until that point, I'd done paleo. Paleo was the big one. Changed my diet. I even tried like performance enhancing drugs like steroids, PEDs, HGH. I did a number of things, and I did it all mainly for the reason of trying to get my body out of pain and feel good again. I went carnivore, big meat eater, did all these things, and I discovered fasting. That was a huge turning point for me because now I wasn't so much looking at what I was putting into my body. I was more thinking about getting out of the way, stop eating completely, and allow my body to cleanse internally and to heal internally, to clean my internal environment, which is what fasting is all about. My very first fast was in 2017. I was 28 years old, and I went down to Mexico. I was living in LA at the time. I was like, all right, while I'm there, I'm going to do a water fast, 7-day water fast, which I just learned about 2 months ago at a retreat in Bali with a guy named Tyler Tolman. And when I heard about it, I was like, all right, this is it. That was my new thing I became super focused on, and that was all that mattered. So I went down to Mexico, did this fast for 7 days, and I ended up fasting for 19 days.
Talk to me about the type of fast and the experience of that.
I didn't know a lot about fasting at the time. So like it was a bit of a kind of fluke effort. Like I just did what I knew, which was to drink water, to rest, do enemas, get sunshine. That was kind of it. But my mind was really calm at the time. Like I was really confident in the process. I really believed in it. Like I really believed it was going to work.
Why did you believe it so much? Like what gave you that belief?
Simple things, actually. Like when I was at that retreat and he talked about animals in nature do this and they do it intuitively. They do it when they're sick. They do it when they're injured. They just lose their appetite and they'll start to fast. And I thought, well, you know what? I've done that in the past, actually. Most of us have. Most of us have lost our appetite because we get sick and we don't eat for a day or 2 days or 3 days. That happened to me when I was like 12. I got gastro, and I remember I didn't eat anything for a number of days, and it was hell. But like I'll never forget it because of how hellish it was. But like that's what my body wanted. It didn't want food. So it just made perfect sense to me, and I thought, okay, it's written throughout the Bible, like people in, significant people in the past have done it. Jesus did it. I'm not even a religious person, but like that resonated with me, in some way, like you'll find it in all ancient texts. So, like I was genuinely excited to see like what's going to happen. And a lot of things happened. Like by day like 7 or 8, like I started to have like a lot of really old, dark, like putrid stuff start coming out of me when I was doing enemas.
Water only enemas?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, just water, warm water.
Yeah.
I actually did an enema. This is back when I was experimenting with all kinds of things, right? And I did an enema with apple cider vinegar.
Oh
Let me tell
no.
you, that hurt so much. Not only did I do it with apple cider vinegar, but I did I was trying to get the water to go further deeper into my colon. So I did a handstand, like an inversion against the wall, and like really like got it down there. And then I reckon 5 minutes later, it was like my guts were burning, like like literally burning, like with acid. And I was like, and then
Yeah.
I thought, what have I done? I was like on the toilet, just like, what have I done? Like I'm here by myself. I'm here by myself in Mexico, and I'm freaking. I feel like my guts are like being burnt by acid right now. Like, what am I doing? And yeah. Anyway, like so much stuff was coming out of me. By day 10, I was actually going to quit. On day 10, I was like, this is. I was having a really bad day the day before, and
Yeah.
day 10, I was like, I'm just going to do an enema, and I'm going to see how I feel. And I did an enema, and a bunch of worms came out. First time I've ever seen worms come out, and I could see them like just sitting there in the bowl. They're all dead. And then I was like, wow. I realized I'm like, I feel way better. Like I feel like night and day how much better I feel. So
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I'm just going to continue on. By day 10, like my skin had completely cleared up. My pain had pretty much gone away. By the end of the 19 days, my pain was gone.
Wow. It's your back pain, right? Your back
Yeah, back pain. I had shoulder pain. I just had all these niggly pains and pains from
pain.
injuries and things, and so that all cleared up.
Mhm.
And I just remember like my skin being the softest and like the most perfect it had ever been. Like I also looked like I'd just gotten out of a concentration camp. Like
Yeah, I can
I looked
imagine.
really, yeah, I looked alarmingly skinny.
Yeah.
But I didn't care because I was like, all right, I can put weight back on. I know I've tapped into something here. Like
You've
this
cleaned.
is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, this works. Finally, after 8 years, I'm like, something works. What I didn't realize is like the breaking of the fast process and how important that is. And I knew I had to eat fruit, so I started with fruit. But then I just turned into like a psycho, and I was just eating like all the time. It became like a frenzy. It was like I couldn't stop. Within, I reckon, like 3 months, unfortunately, my issues came back. So my skin started to flare up again. My pain started to come back. I was like, you know, I got to do another fast. Like I just kept thinking, shit, I got to do another fast. Like that's kind of where my mind was at. So I did. I did on another one the following year with my brother. We made a documentary about it, as you know.
Yeah.
That's the documentary
Give it
there.
a plug, Cindy. Give it a plug.
Called Fasting the Healer Within. And it's on Apple TV for anyone looking for it, or it's on Amazon Prime, depending where you are in the world, and it's on YouTube. So yeah, we ended up doing this other fast, and like I basically just kept trying to replicate all these fasts or the fast that I did, that initial one in Mexico, and this second one was very different. Like we were on a mountain. The weather, we were cold. I went from like doing it in Mexico where it was beautiful and warm the whole time to being cold, and you don't want that. You definitely don't want that. And making a documentary about it as well. Like you don't want to be doing that either. Like you want rest. You want to really rest and allow your body to put its energy in the right place.
And was the thought process of that, you want to be in amongst nature and you want to be, going back to ground zero, was that kind of the thought process you had? Because it was 40 days, right?
We did 20 days of water, and then we did 20 days of juice straight after. But the 20 days of water was where we were on the mountain and we were in nature. And yeah, like nature's amazing and it's healing and it's like, it's a beautiful setting to fast in, but you need your creature comforts. Like at least I feel like if your healing is your priority, then you want to be comfortable, and to be comfortable, you need those things, right? Like
Yeah.
Warm bed, warm shower, and whatever it is that you need to be comfortable. But yeah, like we did that fast together, and I realized at the end of that, like it was great. I got tons of benefits, but the chronic pain issue, which I'd been dealing, which was my main thing, like that didn't resolve. So I was kind of like scratching my head, like, what do I do now? Of course, thinking, shit, I've got to do another fast. That was just kind of where my head was at. It was always at like, I need to do more fasting, more
Yeah.
physical stuff. So I ended up doing another fast the following year, and that one I was like, all right, we got to go bigger. We've got to go harder. Like, so I did 40 days on water in the jungle in Bali in a hut.
Yeah.
Um, and that was tough, but it was, I don't know, my mind was just so strong about it. It was never even an option to not complete it.
You have this incredible resolve within yourself when you make a decision and a commitment. It's really admirable that you are that dedicated to yourself, that you are prepared to put yourself through new experiences that most people would find quite terrifying and quite challenging. So I want to unpick that a little bit, but I also notice a theme within you, this incredible pressure that you put on yourself to get things right and to do the best that you can and
Yeah.
not to fail. That is really helpful in so many ways in life, but it leaves a large part of yourself that you are quite critical over and not as loving towards, and um, potentially just ignore. Just the focus and the pressure becomes quite intense. So you want to talk to me a little bit about that within yourself?
My whole life was about my healing, and for years, and that slowly developed and just got more and more intense. By the time I started fasting, it was like I became obsessed. I was fasting every year, and I was always thinking about my next fast. So this whole focus on fasting and healing, it created like a bubble that I lived in, and that bubble didn't allow for all the things that make life great. To be honest, like it didn't allow for relationships. I stopped dating. I stopped going to the gym, which was a huge, huge one for me. That was my life. Like I lived in the gym. I was a trainer, traveled the world, worked for celebrities. Like that was my whole thing. It was my identity, and I stopped doing that. So the more I focused on my healing, the less I was living. I stopped living just to heal.
You were looking at a very physical side of healing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. It was all physical. I wasn't addressing any of the mental, any of the emotional stuff. It was all physical, and I wasn't even getting the result. That was the other thing. It was like I'd shut my life off, put my life on hold to heal, and my life actually got worse. I was still working and like helping people. I was coaching and doing all these things, but I'd stopped doing things that were fun and that made me happy.
Mm.
There was a period where you opened my fridge, all you would see was grapes. Grapes, and or you would see jars of urine from all the dry fasting.
Oh, good. That would have been good.
Thank God I wasn't dating, because like if you came to my house, you would have freaked out. Who the hell is this guy with jars of urine and grapes in his fridge? And my family were worried about me. You know, every now and then I'd have to send like a group text to everyone, be like, guys, I'm all right. Like, I know you haven't seen me in a while, or I know I'm kind of doing weird things. Like, I'm okay. And I sort of was okay. Like, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to get this. I know I'm going to figure this out. Like, I never gave up hope that I was going to figure it out. But I was oblivious to the life that I'd created and who I'd become.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, like I said, I'd stopped living. I just didn't realize. I didn't have that realization till years later, probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But that was again, another really important light bulb moment for me, because at that time, I had kind of hit a rock bottom period in my life where I'd gone from being confident, full of hope, like, yeah, my life's weird and I've changed and I've created this bubble, but I was full of hope. Then all of a sudden the hope went, and I was like, shit, I got nothing now. And I'm this shell of myself. I'm 60 something kilos, when I'm normally 85 kilos. I'm 6'3", and I'm normally strong and fit, and I'm not that physical person anymore. Mentally now I've kind of lost it. I don't know what the hell's, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this or how I'm going to fix it.
That just breaks for you in this. I just want to reach to the computer and give you a cuddle.
I can tell this story now, and there's a little bit of emotion there, but there's not a lot. So like I've come a long way from it. But I don't talk about it often. I don't really think about my past too much. I'll kind of look forward, but I think it's an important story because I know there are going to be people that watch this that might also feel like they've lost a sense of themselves and that their healing journey has just taken over their life. And maybe they're at a rock bottom moment. So I'd done my 3 big fasts, Mexico, my fast with my brother, the 40-day fast in Bali, and then 2 years later, I decided to go to Tanglewood at a professional clinic. I went there expecting that things would be simple. I would do a fast, I'd leave there, I'd be fine, and I'd move on to the next phase of my life. And it just wasn't the case at all. The first time ever in my life, I was struck with some major doubt over the whole process, and I wasn't feeling good in the fast, and I had started to have some really big mental and emotional stuff come up. Tanglewood is fantastic in so many ways, but what they don't provide is mental and emotional support, and that's pretty much what I needed more than anything. I went through some really overwhelming thoughts and fears, like major fear coming up of am I ever going to heal myself? Am I ever going to get rid of this pain? Am I ever going to become the person I want to be, get back to who I was? I just had so much fear, so much doubt. It accumulated and it compounded, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And I started to have major panic attacks alone in my room where I couldn't breathe, and I would hyperventilate, and I would just be like, what the hell is happening? I'd never had a panic attack before. I was like, what the hell is happening to me right now? My breath would get so short, so shallow, to the point where I would just pass out. And by the way, if you've ever had a panic attack, anybody who's watching who knows, you feel like you're about to die.
To be alone in your room when you're going through that must have been really hard for you.
The being alone part was a freak out. And I think the fact I had no one to talk to about it and help me work through it or come out of it, it just kept going. So I was pretty much having a panic attack every day, every other day, over the course of a number of weeks that I was there. I stayed there way longer than I was supposed to, but I got down to 59 kilos. I was the skinniest I've ever been as a grown adult male. Weak, physically weak, mentally and emotionally just in tatters. And I was like, right, it's time to just go home, regroup, go live with mum, and just put myself back together basically. And that was a process because I didn't even know how I was going to do it. I just went home and for months I was kind of on the couch, didn't know what I was doing,
Did you go inward during that time? Because we've been friends through that period where you were doing that, and I would never have known this about you. So did you have anybody that you were talking to?
Mostly just my family. At that point, I just kind of wasn't talking to a lot of my friends. I just wasn't really reaching out to people. I was ashamed as well. I was really ashamed of what had happened. I was like, yeah, guys, I'm going to go to Costa Rica. I'm going to do this fast. I'm going to leave there. I'm going to heal all this. I was really confident that would happen. So here I am back home on mum's couch, in a pretty bad way. And I had another big moment in my life where my brother-in-law, bless him, he reached out to me and he was like, he'd been pushing Joe Dispenza on me for years, right? Probably 2 years. Yeah. You were the first person. I wish I listened. Because here I am on the couch. My brother's like, right, come over to my place. We're going to watch Rewired. So I watched that. And within an episode, I was like, this is he's literally talking about me. Like, he talks about how our thoughts create our life, and the way we think and the way we feel, and everything creates our personal reality. And I was like, man, I created this reality for myself. I literally created it myself. And that was the beginning of like what I now genuinely look at as like the real path that I needed to get on. He helped me put all the pieces of the puzzle that I already had together in terms of all the physical stuff, and then the mental and emotional stuff, which I knew about, but I really didn't fully appreciate or respect and wasn't really putting into practice. He helped me put all those pieces together and understand how the body follows the mind.
Yeah.
Like every thought we have, every feeling we have is creating chemistry, and our body is always listening. He just helped me understand like that I'd literally been in a state of survival for most of my life, but certainly in the last like 6 years since I started to get really hyper focused about my healing. Like all the time that I was trying to heal, my body was stuck in survival because everything I was doing was coming from a place of some form of fear, some level of desperation, control. You know, I got so controlled with everything to the point where it's like my body was just constantly in this fight or flight state.
Yeah.
And when I understood that, I was like, okay, I need to let go of the controls. I got to let go of like my control around my food. You know, I had this belief that there was foods that if I ate them, they were going to make me sick, and they were going to ruin my healing, and they were going to do all these things. And I had to let go of that, which I have completely now. And I just had to understand how to get beyond my mind. Like I was stuck in this life because of the way I was thinking, and the fear that I felt, and the shame that I had. I had so much shame as like a coach. I was like, man, I'm a coach and I haven't figured it out, and I'm fucking, you know, look at this life that I've created, and I'm trying to help all these people.
But you did, like, you helped me.
Yeah, I know. That's the crazy thing. Like I
Yeah.
can help people, but I couldn't help myself.
So, for those watching, Sinclair was my fasting coach to heal my second cancer. I did a 21-day water only fast with Sinclair. I, like you, held a lot of um, deep feelings inside and operated from a place of fear, and therefore sought control in my life. And throughout that fast, I had no ability to control what was happening. I had to sit in that pain physically, and I also had to sit in that pain mentally because I couldn't distract myself. And what I learned in that experience was that I actually needed to heal my mind and my self love. And I remember speaking to you about that, and I could feel within you that you had that same need.
Yeah.
But perhaps weren't as ready to talk about it at that point. But I felt that connection with you. And it's interesting hearing you speak about it at this point, because from my experience, I felt like it was the physical fast and the physical stopping and the lack of control to a degree that forced me to actually deal with my emotions. So I find it really interesting for you, the amount of fast that you had. This is how strong your mind was, that you were able to sit through, you know, such long fasting periods and still not go to that level of deepness until you went to Costa Rica. Your body was like, no, that's it. Your mind might be trying to control it, but that's it. No, I'm going to put you through this anxiety and these physical symptoms until you do something about it. So it's incredible that it was that locked up for you until you had that release.
I believe that we're always learning what we're ready to learn. Like with all the experiences that we have, we're having them when we're ready to have them.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you and I meeting, for example, and you coming to me for coaching, we were probably very similar in how we perceive things and where we were at on our journey. We attracted each other, I guess, at that time. In my case, like when I was ready to learn the next step, life presented that to me. And I had the experience that opened up the door to that new lesson. And that experience just happened to be like a really fucking shit one, and a really like the hardest one ever, you know. But I don't. I look back on it now, and I'm like, I'm actually so grateful I had that experience,
Yeah, that's
because I never would have learned what I know now, and like, and I wish everybody not to have that experience, but to learn what I learned, because it is so important. And what I've learned is that I am a creator. I created my life, and I created all the good stuff that I love, but I created all the shit stuff that I don't like, and all the things I was trying to fix, like
yeah.
the relationships that I had, the body that I was struggling with, like those things were a manifestation of who I had become. Um, and when I realized that, and that really like hit me, I thought, you know, this is it's a hard realization, but it's an important one, because it means that I can create the future that I want, and I can heal my body. I can create the life that I want, and I have that power. It helped me take my power back.
Yeah.
And not be a victim.
Yeah. And that's important, isn't it? To see that you actually do, you have to own it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. You have to own it. Otherwise, you're just sort of you're playing victim to everything, and you give your power away, and it's things are always happening to you, and you'll always blame others. You'll always find someone to be the culprit, something, someone. I feel this way because of that person. That I don't like going there. It makes me feel this way, or that food made me feel this way, or like we'll always find something else outside of us to justify the way we feel.
It allows you to stay in that space when it's
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah,
perpetuates.
exactly. You end up getting stuck, and you can't move on. You can't change anything in your life. Like one of the things that Joe says all the time, Joe Dispenza, is like nothing in your life changes until you change. And I realized like that is so true. Like whether you're trying to heal or create a business, find love, create wealth, like whatever it is, everybody has had an experience in their life once upon a time where they had a big change in their life. And if they looked back and analyzed what they did and who they were or who they had to become, they'll all be able to say, I did have to change. Like I had to change the way I thought, had to change the way I felt, had to get excited, had to get passionate. That was another big takeaway for me is the whole process of change. It's hard. Like changing is hard. We get so stuck in who we are.
Yeah.
We get addicted to like who we are and the feelings that we have, even though they're shit feelings. Like we get addicted to the feelings of like guilt and shame, and we don't even realize.
And it's predictable. And I think that's what like comes into play there is what's going to happen next. It fits within that realm of fear and control.
Yeah, I think the human brain is wired to avoid unknowns. Like we attach fear and doubt and worry to unknown situations. So like reprogramming yourself to get excited about unknowns, especially when you're stuck in a life that is not fun and you're sick or you're miserable, like that's an unhappy known. So I was in a situation where it was like the unknown can't be worse than what I'm doing. Like this is pretty bad.
It's that logic that's got to come up, right? You've got to be able to go, actually, this is a bit shit. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to have something.
Yeah.
I deserve something better.
Yeah.
I will try for myself for something better.
Whenever you make a decision of that caliber, like you remember it, you never forget it. Like I remember the moment that I decided to go vegan and I'd stop eating animals, which was a huge decision for me. I remember the moment that I made a decision that I was going to fast, like the level of emotion that was attached to that decision, it creates the snapshot that we never forget in our mind. And that's what it takes. Like, to change on that level, it takes that level of passion and commitment and willpower. And so we need to really turn up for ourselves in order to change.
And it makes every step after that easier, don't you find? Because the
Yeah,
pride that you have in yourself for that one step, which might be so small and insignificant just to change your thought, that one change, you go, oh my God, that felt really good. And now I think I can take just maybe one more. And you don't have to think of the end goal so much. You just have to think of what's another little step.
yeah, exactly. And each little step is you're changing at each step. Before your physical body even changes, the decision alone creates a level of energy. You're like, I feel different. I feel good. I'm excited, and that's huge. Like, we can't heal when we're in a state of survival. We have to heal and change our life when we're in a state of joy and love and enthusiasm and passion. Like, we can change our life from a state of survival. We definitely can, but it's not going to be enjoyable. We can create things from that place, but it's not going to be fun. It's very difficult to heal ourselves from that place. I tried for many years, and then I realized that I was just doing it all wrong. Like, fasting is brilliant. So many people I've worked with have healed, but what I realized is that um, how you what you do afterwards, the relationships, the way you eat, the way you look after your physical body, like, all these things are important. The way you perceive the world, like, do you live with your heart open? Do you connect easily, and do you do you live vulnerably? Like, all these things are really important to make sure, like, let's say if you do a fast afterwards, to continue that healing, and make sure that you don't regress or go back to the life that you had. But also, just even if you didn't never fasted, and it's not about healing, it's living from that place is what I've now realized is the most important thing. It's the most important thing to me at this time in my life, because I realized for my entire life I kind of lived with my heart shut off. I did find it hard to, like, connect with people, to share my feelings, to talk about the way I felt and the things that were vulnerable to me. And I just kind of closed off. And I realized that, that's one way to do it, but the other way to do it is way more fun, feels way better, and it's way easier as well, to connect with other people, to create things in your life, to heal your body. It's so much easier when you are living from your heart. And maybe that doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people watching this, but basically, when you're living in survival, your heart shuts off, and you just your physical body is running on survival emotions, survival chemistry. Your nervous system is stuck in survival, and when you're in that state, it's not a time to open up your heart and fall in love. It's not a time to heal. It's not a time to create. And yeah, getting beyond that and getting back to your heart, I think it's very, very important.
If I am in a place of survival and I am in a place where I'm in a lot of fear and I'm trying to operate for control, it can feel like you can't get out of that. You talked about a point in your life that you really remember of being that change. And for me, it was the phone call I made to my parents where I said, look, no, you really want me to go through the Western medicine route, and I know you really want me to live, and I get emotional every time I say this, but that phone call where I was like, do you know what? This is my life, and I want the rest of whatever my life is, however long that time is, I want that to be a happy experience. I've had chemo and that was awful. I don't want my life to be like that again. I want to choose happiness. I want to choose joy. And I want to surrender to the unknown so that I can hopefully have that. And then in that fast, what I learned about myself was, okay, you're just going to have to choose those happy thoughts today. You're going to have to choose to see the world this way, not that way. You're going to have to let go of it being somebody else's fault, or I'm in this situation because I can't get out, or whatever it is. I had to choose to see the little bits of joy. And because I was in the fast and I had nothing else to focus on other than trying to find those little bits to keep me going from not eating, I'd be like, oh, what can I focus on? That for me is what helped me change. Can you talk to me about how it felt for you to get yourself out, and what might help other people to get themselves out of that place of fear and control?
Yeah. Well, I think firstly you need to make a decision that is so strong that nothing can override it, and you need to be ready. And most people just have to hit a really like enough challenging a challenging place in their life where they'll make that decision and they're ready to commit. Um, and then it's about kind of arming yourself with enough understanding and knowledge and like learning. There's a lot of learning that people need to do, I think, to understand that there is many tools available to them to get out of whatever challenging situation they are in. Um, for example, I started with fasting, but then got into Joe's work and learned the physical and then the mental and the emotional and kind of, and then was able to put all them together. But I had think having that understanding and that determination, and then like you kind of you touched on a little bit yourself, like you had to create boundaries for yourself and kind of draw the line with the people around you and create that space for yourself. So it's important to do that as well. Sometimes we do need to remove ourselves from the environment that either made us sick or is contributing to the situation that we're in or preventing us from healing. If that's possible, for some people it's not. Then it's learning how to change, to put it simply. It's like learning how to become a different person. And it starts with how you think and how you feel. Every action that you take starts with a thought, right? So we have to first look. We've got to go back to the root of it all and start looking at, well, how am I actually thinking? How do I perceive the world? How do I perceive myself? And when we get really aware of that, really conscious of that, it's alarming because we're like, holy shit, I do think pretty fucking bad thoughts a lot of the time. Like, I don't even realize. I get stuck in these spirals, like these vortexes of like of like fear and shame or blame or guilt and like all this negative stuff. No wonder my life is the way it is. No wonder I feel shit all the time and drained of energy, or my body feels icky and stuck and painful, and or no wonder I'm sick. It's like when we get really aware of that, and that takes a lot of awareness, by the way. That takes a lot of awareness, a lot of being really honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, being really jinx, double jinx. Being just like, just having a really good hard look in the mirror, as they say. But once you start doing that and you become aware of it, that's the first start. That's the starting point. Then you can start to catch yourself in those moments, and you can start to make the choice to think differently. That sounds very easy, and it's not, but that is part of the process. It's a big part of the process. Another thing that comes to mind, which I say often, and because I feel like it sums things up nicely, is we've been practicing being this person for a really long time, the person that's sick and negative and all the things that are keeping us down and keeping our life stuck in this situation. Like we've practiced being that person our entire life. It's like now you need to practice being someone else. Like, who do you want to be? What's the life that you want to live? What's the kind of body that you want to have? Who would that person be? How would they think? How would they feel? What would they do every day? How would they talk to people? How would they react in conversation?
I love that.
Yeah, and like it makes sense. We can answer most of those questions ourselves. We know how that person would be. A lot of us were that person in some time.
Yeah.
I was that person at some time in my life to a degree.
Yeah.
I just turned into this other person slowly. I became this person that I never even envisioned I could ever become. So then it was about learning how to be who I want to be and practice being that person. So I got back into the gym. No, I couldn't even do a push-up. I went from being like, celebrity trainer to not even being able to do a push-up. Like it was crazy. And the other day I did 51 push-ups. I beat Saxon.
Well done.
Yeah. I was stuck.
Yeah.
So like I had to start putting I had to start putting some actions in place. And even though it was so hard, like going out for walks, going into the gym, being around people, putting myself in social environments again, which used to be easy to me, and then all of a sudden wasn't. And I was still dealing with, like, my old self would rear his head all the time, and like the thoughts would come into my mind, and I'd get super anxious in a social environment, or I'd be at the gym, my mind would be going crazy, and sometimes it'd get the better of me and I would leave, but most of the time, especially in the gym, I would stick it through, and I would slowly start to see things changing. Like, I saw my body start to get a little different. I started to put muscle on again. I was like, oh, I'm starting to look a little bit like my old self. Like, if that girl just checked me out, I don't know. So, like, I started to feel a little bit like my old self, but it's like not my old self. It was like all the things I liked about myself started to creep back in, but with this new feeling of like, of a new direction that I was going in, of all the new things that I'd learned and the new person that I'd become. So essentially, I wasn't becoming like my old self. I was becoming like my new self, and and that feeling was empowering, and it really inspired me to keep going and keep learning and keep pushing. But I'd had heaps of dark days. Um, I had days where, like, my mind would just get the better of me, and I'd go into this vortex of just terrible thoughts and whatever, which was, again, like I said, the old me just not like being willing to surrender. And I just hadn't overcome myself yet. I was in the process of overcoming myself, but I was getting better and better at it every single day. I was getting way less anxiety. My thoughts were more positive. I was started to feel that optimism again of like, I can change my life. I can be who I want to be. I can heal my body, all these things. And that is the process of overcoming yourself. This is how Joe says it, like overcoming yourself until you become the person that you want to be.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's practice.
Yeah.
It's practice.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, when you go to a gym class or something and you go, oh, I'm so tired today, I didn't sleep, and these are all the reasons I don't want to do this. And then you get 10 minutes into it and you go, oh, actually, it's all right. Maybe I'm okay.
Yeah.
I feel all right.
Yeah.
And then you walk out of there and you're like, hell yeah, I just did a workout. I feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like halfway through the workout, like, man, I look good. Like, it's so funny how like we can have a negative thought, especially in the morning, and the negative thought, if we choose to let it, it sets the course for the day.
It does.
Yeah. And that's where I always bring it back to that, like having that level of awareness to catch yourself. That's the first part. And then having the level of, discipline. It's a funny thing because I used to think, I was like, man, discipline, like I get it. I used to play sport. I had that discipline or whatever. Now I'm like, I don't want discipline. I want to live from a life of like passion. And then if I'm passionate, then discipline, you don't need discipline when you're passionate. But I realized that it's not realistic because there's just going to be days where you're just not feeling like yourself. You just don't feel good. And on those days, it's like you need discipline. You need to show up for yourself regardless. And the amount of times I've dragged myself to the gym just because I'm like, I'm just not going to let that, like the voice of the little bitch inside my brain, I'm not going to let it win anymore. Like, I'm just going to do things regardless. Even if they hurt my body, I'm going to do them anyway, to a degree. I'm not going to be reckless, but I'm just not going to live this life of like letting that voice of lack and the voice of fear and the voice of like the old me win and steer my life anymore. I'm going to choose to be bigger than that.
We all start from a different point in life, but it's okay that I'm not the best at this. It's okay that I'm starting from this position. It's that long-term goal and sense of achievement that really gives you that sense of purpose and drives you and opens your heart. That's what I found. Did you find something similar?
I'm really glad you brought that up, actually, because I think that was another really important thing for me that I learned. And that was the idea of loving myself regardless of where I was at in my journey. And because, for example, after the first fast I did, I got super skinny, and I was like, oh man, like I don't have this physical body anymore. This is kind of how I identified with what I identified with all this time for all these years, being big and strong and physical and feeling masculine. And then that just kind of all went, and it was like, I don't really know who I am anymore. Like, I don't, outside of this, like, what else do I have to offer? Like, and then at multiple stages, even especially when I wasn't training for so many years, I really struggled with the idea of like accepting myself where I was, and I had so much shame because of that lack of self acceptance and self love, and that's now I've realized how important that is. It's firstly accepting where you're at in your life, um, and knowing that you can change it. It's not about accepting it and just going, all right, well, this is how it is, and I'm not going to do anything about it. It's like if you genuinely want to change, accept where you're at, and then understand that you have the power to change it, no matter what it is. Like literally, no matter what it is, no matter how bad your life is, you have the ability to change it. No matter how bad your physical health is, you have the ability to heal your body. Doesn't matter what you're dealing with. The work that I do and the journey I've been on has been a blessing because I've seen so much now. Like I've seen people heal from things that, are incurable, and people get out of wheelchairs, and, I've seen just unbelievable things. And I have no doubt in my mind now that our body is more capable than we could ever understand to heal.
Our body is capable of anything if our mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The mind is the key, and it's not like some woo-woo thing of like, oh, you just put the thought out there into the ether and it's going to magically appear. It's like it's that on a physical level, like our mind has to be in support of what we're doing. If it's not, then and we're stuck in fear, we're not designed to heal when we're in survival. Like our body doesn't produce the right chemistry, our nervous system doesn't function and operate in a way that supports regeneration. Our body is prioritizing one thing, and that is to run, hide, or fight. And we have to get out of that first. And then we start to open up the possibility of healing because our autonomic nervous system is what heals us. That's the bottom line. And when we give our nervous system the space, create the space physically, mentally, and emotionally, it will start to go into a regenerative state. And, it can happen over a period of time for some people. It can happen slowly. For some people, it can happen instantly. They have instantaneous healings. And I've witnessed that, like at these retreats. Like it's unbelievable. My belief is at an all-time high, and anybody who's in a situation and they need to change their life, they want to change their life, your belief is key. Your belief comes from your knowledge and your experience. So get out there and go and seek knowledge. Go out there and have experiences, talk to people, read books. There's so much information out there. It's ridiculous. Like more than we could ever consume, but it's all there for us. We just need to go out there and just get involved and go out there and learn and get excited about it. It's like I used to think to myself, man, I've kind of like lost my passion a little bit and I'm stuck in this healing thing. And I thought, I'm just going to get really passionate about my healing. I'm just going to get so like wrapped up and involved and in my healing. I took it a little bit too far, admittedly, but like get excited about changing. Get excited about changing your life. Get grateful for the things that you have as well. Like I had to learn that one too. Like I got so caught up looking forward to the things I wanted and all the things I didn't have. And yet at the time, like, yeah, my life was challenging in so many ways, but I had beautiful things around me. I got a beautiful family. There were so many things in my body that were working. I had food, I had a bed, like literally, like you get to the point where you go, man, I do have a lot to be grateful for. And reminding yourself of that often. I remind myself of that all the time because, we get caught up in life and trying to create and what everything we want, and we forget to just relax and be appreciative of all the amazing things we have. And the moment you do, your energy changes as well. That's the other thing. It's like, it
Does.
feels great to be grateful.
It does. Going back to our point of how do you take that step to change? As humans, we're designed to connect. We're a community. It's important to make sure that we still connect to people, to keep that sense of compassion alive, which drives that gratefulness, which drives that ability to have a different perception than just your own and get caught up in just your own thoughts. That's not the way
Absolutely.
love works. There are lots of different perceptions. And sometimes, just helping somebody that is unable to help themselves in that way can really ignite, that joy, that,
Totally.
that passion for yourself and others. Like, it's so important to remember to be there for each other as well as yourself.
Like you said, when you are of service, like when you help someone, it feels great. Like you got beyond yourself for a second to be of service and help someone. That brings so much joy to your own life, and it changes you. Every single day, every morning, I meditate for about an hour or hour to 2 hours. One of the reasons I do it is because I want to start my day living from my heart. I don't want to start my day living from my head, stressed out, like, worried about what I'm doing that day and freaking out about, the meeting I have, the emails I have, the bills I got to pay, the projects I'm working on. I don't want to start from that state. I want to start calm, centered, coherent. I want to feel some joy before I even start my day. And I'm not going to wait for something in my day to make me feel joyful. I want to just start my day feeling joyful because I am a joyful person.
You are.
And yeah, well, I have my moments, but but I've learned that that's possible, and that's something most people don't realize. You can do that. You don't have to wait for something outside of you to make you feel a certain way. If you want to feel love, just get in touch with yourself. Shut the world off for a second, close your eyes, meditate. Your natural state is love. And we slowly over time, we disconnect from that because of our environment. So getting beyond your environment is key, and getting back to who you truly are. You'll naturally move back in that direction. I felt the power of what it can do at the retreat, and I was like, wow, like it. In that moment, I was down at the beach, I was by myself meditating, and I was like, this is the best I've ever felt in my entire life. Like, I don't remember ever feeling this good. Like, the only thing I could compare it to is when, I used to take ecstasy. It's like I was looking at the lady swimming next to me, just like, like smiling at her. Like, I felt love for her. I felt love for everything. I felt so much love for myself.
Aww.
I just remember saying to myself, man, I'm so proud of you and everything that you've done. And the way you never gave up, you persevered. Um, you are, I just kept praising myself and saying, I'm so grateful and so happy and so in love with myself.
And it's okay to do that, hey? Like, we're taught, especially in Australia, that it's not okay.
Yeah. It's not even just okay, it's fucking vital.
Yeah.
Like it is so necessary that we speak to ourselves this way, because the opposite of that is so detrimental to our health and our lives, and the negative self-talk and the way most people speak to themselves. We would never talk to someone else like that. You go to these retreats to change. People go there to heal. They go there for all kinds of things. Ultimately, you go there to change. Now I just need to make a commitment to becoming the person that I want to be and living the life that I want to live. And that means I have to continually overcome myself. Like, and I got triggered immediately as soon as I got back. Certain places, yeah, like family, all that kind of stuff, triggered me straight away. I was like, oh, like all these old feelings came up. Like now it's like the real work begins.
And there's always going to be triggers. You're just going to have to pick yourself up. You just fall down, stand up, fall down, stand up. It's life.
When you start actually seeing that it's working, it's amazing. Like, it's empowering. You realize this stuff does work.
So You have gone through all of these amazing experiences and challenges and different ways of thinking and, physical pain, mental pain. You are coaching other people, you're still learning yourself, and you're helping people achieve what they never thought they could. At this point in time, what is it that you're looking to take forward in your life?
My focus every day is to just show up for myself in the best way that I know how. And that involves being really conscious and aware of how I'm thinking and feeling, catching myself in moments where I get a bit negative and bringing myself back to the moment. So I meditate to start with. I'm really excited about the idea of discovering more love. Like after that experience I had and how good that felt, I'm like, I want more of that. I want to live a life that's full of that, as full of that as that is possible. I've gone from this place where I wasn't really living and I was focused on healing to now where I'm like, I want to live, I want to create, I want to have experiences, I want to build a strong body. I want to get excited about my physical journey again.
Tell me about the physical things you're going to take forward.
I still believe in the idea of nourishing our bodies with the right food, of fasting regularly. I still eat plant-based. I still eat a high fruit diet. That makes me feel really good. And I've got a really good balance with those things now. I'm not controlling. I intermittent fast for most of the day and I'll break my fast around 12 o'clock whenever with some fruit. And I have a big fruit meal. I'll eat an absurd amount of papaya, in one meal, 4 papayas, which by the way, they're like nature's laxative. They're the best.
Yeah.
They really are. They're so good. And then I have a really nice cooked plant-based meal for dinner. Last night I had a lentil bolognese.
Yeah.
And I just I don't live a life from fear and control anymore. I've let go of all of that, and my energy as a result, it's like I've taken it back. And I'm continuing to take it back more and more. There's so many things that I want to do in my life, but the most important thing for me will always be the relationship I have with myself. That is the foundation to any life worth living, in my opinion, is really going to start with how you feel about yourself. Make that your focus, fall in love with yourself. And everything in your life will just naturally change because you will have to change. Relationships can fall off, which can be challenging, but you'll bring so many new ones into your life and you'll just see the world differently. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. And when you change who you are, you will see everything differently in your life. And amazing things will start to happen. Synchronicities will start to happen. I'm not settling for what I currently have and what the way I feel. I know there's more. I know there's more health. I know there's more vitality. I know there's more love, so much more love. I know there's more connection and creativity and projects I want to make. And it's funny you actually asked me to do this because this is the first time I've actually spoken like this, especially in a way that's going to be shared. And I'm excited for people to hear this. This will spark something for them, hopefully, and help change the trajectory of their journey in a really positive way.
Coming as well from a male, how vulnerable you are and how open you are about the need to love yourself and connect with others and be grateful and celebrate yourself even when you fall down. All those things, especially for men, is so important to hear and to be accepted for. And for women to hear that, men also experience these same things too, because it is more common in females to express their vulnerability. But it's important that we recognize we need to encourage and celebrate that in men as well and be there for them when they choose to share that side of themselves. I'm really grateful for you, Zinni, and always bringing that to our friendship. It certainly helps me to show up as a better person as well.
Thanks, Nikki.
That makes you a phenomenal coach and a great person to have in my life, in others' lives. I'm excited for people to hear your story too.